Hello there and welcome. It's Friday, December 5th, 2008, and this is WFTL Bytes, your occasiodaily FOSS and Linux news show with your host, me, Marcel Gagné. This is your one-take look at what's happening in the world of FOSS and Linux news. Yes, indeed. Hey, today's newscast is brought to you by the letter O, and the letter O, and the letter O. But before we get to that, I must put on my press hat. Press hat. Hey, at the top of the news, I want to tell you something that doesn't have anything to do with the letter O, except for the fact that the letter O is inside the word. Songbird, which is an extensible, customizable, open source media player that can handle pretty much any musical format that you've got, has just released version 1.0 of their excellent media player. Yes, indeed, if you've got lots of songs sitting over on your hard disk, or you want something that can play the media web and all sorts of other neat features, like mash tape, for instance, which will download information from Flickr, find you photos, information from Google about the artist that's currently playing, that will find concert tickets for the artist that's currently playing, if you want to go see them in concert, that does Last.fm integration, and a whole bunch of other neat things. You got to check this one out. I've actually been running Songbird for quite a while now, and it's a great music player. It's something that you have to check out. It's actually based on the Mozilla Gecko rendering engine, and using the same technology as Firefox, you can actually extend it by getting all sorts of really cool little add-ons to make it do pretty much anything you ever wanted or imagined a media player capable of doing. It's something you got to check out. By the way, Linux Magazine has a review on it, which I recommend that you go check out. And now, let's get to the letter O. First, Linux.com has an article which is called, are you ready for this? Federico Carecchi writes, "The best Office suite you didn't know you already had." Now, the reason that I found this interesting, and the reason that I had to go and check it out, is back on November 11th, I did a WFTL Bytes where I talked about yet another article that talked about a Office suite variation on OpenOffice.org called Go-OO. Maybe it's Go-Oo. I'm not entirely sure, but the idea was that it was a little bit faster, a little bit slicker, a little bit shinier, and was able to do things that the Sun version of OpenOffice might not be able to do because of things like licensing, business agreements, or other reasons, you know, who knows what. But anyhow, there was a whole bunch of flack in some of the key feedback comments regarding the article in particular that I was quoting, and people were saying, oh, I don't know, Novell's involved in this in some way, I'm not sure if I can trust it, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Anyway, the article says that if you're running Ubuntu, if you're running Mandriva, if you're running, Debian or OpenSUSE or something like that, you're already running Go-OO or Go-Oo. And that's because it is the modified version. It's not the version that's actually being distributed directly from OpenOffice.org. So, I just thought I'd update you on that. And of course, you can go to go-oo.org if you don't already have a copy of it to download your copy. Heise Open Source has a story today on OpenOffice.org. And they tell us that basically the user interface, that old user interface from OpenOffice.org, well, apparently it's ready for a makeover. Yes, an extreme makeover for that matter. The OpenOffice team recognizes that it's starting to look, a little dated, and they want to do something about it. So they've launched Project Renaissance, where they will solicit users' comments and feedback and suggestions on how you can improve the way the menus are laid out, the way that the user interface in general works, the way the icons, basically anything having to do with OpenOffice's current user interface is up for grabs and up for development. Now, this isn't going to show up next week or next month or whatever, but it will show up in a future version of OpenOffice.org. Remember, the links are at the bottom. All the stories that I mentioned, the links are at the bottom. So if you want to go and join Project Renaissance and give them your ideas on how they can improve OpenOffice.org, please do it. Speaking of things that are a little ways off, there's a question over on a ZDNet blog by Dana Blackenhorn, which is, will open source still love you when I'm 64? Which, by the way, is in 2020. I think she's just trying to drop hints for people to buy her gift when she turns 64. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, she's reporting from the Open World Forum, which just wrapped up in Paris, France. Oh, I wish I could have been at the Open World Forum in Paris, France. I do so love Paris. Wonderful. Anyway, I'm digressing. The FLOSS 2020 roadmap was unveiled there, and of course people were suggesting things for that. And it's basically an attempt to define where free and open source software is and where it's going and where it should be going. And they came up with a whole list of suggestions of what people should be thinking about as we move forward toward the year 2020. And there are things like forges must evolve into marketplaces. Open source needs to build a cloud operating system. Clouds must prevent vendor lock-in. There are all sorts of things like that. And if you want, go check the article out. And remember, I don't just have the link to the ZNedet thing, I also have the link to the FLOSS 2020 page so that you can find out what they were chatting about there. Over at Computer World, Stephen J. Von Nichols, cyber cynic, reports on the Ubuntu plus IBM desktop alternative. What the heck is that? Well, apparently, IBM has decided that one of the ways to distribute quickly and rapidly to thousands of desktops modern applications, specifically versions of things like Lotus Notes, same time IM Client, and of course OpenOffice.org. Oh, my goodness, they're everywhere today. Anyway, is to use thin client technology, and they do that with Virtual Bridges Verde. Now, Virtual Bridges you've probably never heard of, but they're the company that was behind Win4Lin. Win4Lin was one of the earlier attempts to provide a means of running a full version of Windows on your Linux desktop, and that was back in the day when VMware was wickedly expensive and people couldn't afford it. Well, at least, people like me couldn't afford it. But what Win4Lin was doing was providing a very inexpensive alternative for running just a version of Windows if you didn't want to run, multiple distributions and so forth. Anyhow, so IBM has adopted that concept as a means of providing anyone with a network desktop to use an Ubuntu workstation to then pipe those applications directly over to user desktops. And that can be anybody in the office, in the extranet, over VPN, and so forth. And the idea being that it's a heck of a lot cheaper than loading Vista or whatever to give modern software to users. And that basically works out to about $49 a pop, which is, of course, a heck of a lot cheaper. Over at PC Pro News, this has nothing to do with OpenOffice.org, but it does have to do with the letter O, because Opera version 10, Alpha 1, has just been released. And while they write up, lots of neat things, like it's shiny, it's new, it's fast, and so forth, it uses the Presto 2 rendering engine, which will be used in all future versions of Opera, and it is one of the few, and I mean like maybe 3 browsers in the world that can pass the ACID 3 test, which checks to make sure that web browsers are capable of properly rendering AJAX pages, JavaScript, and so forth. There are very, very few browsers that can do that. I believe Chrome can do it, Midori can do it, and now 100% compatibility, Opera. And by the way, I have downloaded it, I have tried it, it's excellent. I may be retiring a whole pile of browsers with this new version of Opera. Now, I haven't tried it with everything. I don't know that it works perfectly with everything, but right now, I'm impressed. It's pretty darn cool. Anyway, this is where I'm going to wrap it up. Have a great weekend. Remember, WFTL Leave comments, chat. Let me know what you think. That's it. I'm done. Bye.